Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Naso here with another update on Tropical Storm Chantal. As we look at the Atlantic Basin at this time, you can see a few interesting features. Now, if I told you where Chantal was located and I said it was in the Bahamas, you would say, oh yeah, I see it right there, Mike's spinning around. That's actually thunderstorms associated with an upper level low, which we knew would be there for at least the last week. We've had an indication through the model guidance that there would be showers and thunderstorms heading towards Florida in association with an upper level feature. But Chantal is actually this right here, this tropical storm, this strong tropical storm moving past the Lesser Antilles now towards the Greater Antilles, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and eventually the Bahamas. And we do have obviously watches and warnings up, and all eyes on Chantal at this hour as it is beginning to feel the wind shear here in the Eastern Caribbean. We're also going to talk about the Central Atlantic. Even though it's only the 9th of July, note the moisture here moving off the coast and indications that we will have another storm within the next couple of days that we're going to have to contend with. Let's get right to Chantal as of 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It was at 14.8 north, 62.7 west. Winds were 65 miles an hour, gusting to 70. The reconnaissance is finding strong winds, but not a very pronounced low-level circulation center. This is not a well-organized tropical storm, but it is a tropical storm with very gusty winds. It is racing west-northwest at 28 miles an hour. For the deep tropics, I don't care what time of year it is, this is rare, especially to have a system that is holding together and actually strengthening today. 1,006 millibars, which is 4 millibars lower than it was about 6 to 12 hours ago. So believe it or not, Chantal has intensified. It was forecast to do so, but it just looks so ill-defined that it's a little surprising. The forecast again by later tonight, continuing towards south of Puerto Rico, by this time tomorrow being over Hispaniola, and then by this time, say Friday night, the northern Bahamas, Saturday night and Sunday, still in the northern Bahamas. There's a lot of uncertainty as steering currents could collapse and have Chantal sit somewhere in this region, east of Florida, in the Bahamas, possibly over Florida. Florida, you are in the cone in the longer range, so begin to overlook your plans just in case Chantal comes your way. Again, it could be a little bit more on the southern edge of this cone or a little bit more on the northern edge of this cone, but either way, right up through Hispaniola, the Turks, Caicos, Bahamas, in towards the area near, say, Abaco Island and Grand Bahama Island. You can see obviously the tropical storm watch for Puerto Rico. We also have watches and warnings now for areas of the Turks and Caicos, as well as the southeastern Bahamas with those tropical storm advisories. Again, this is a tropical storm, and we have to keep an eye on it. Now, when we look at the latest satellite imagery of Chantal, you can see that this is not a well-defined tropical storm at all. You have clouds racing out in front of it. You have stable air around it as the sun hits those thin cloud layers, and you can see the winds here blowing directly towards it. That is wind shear. That is unfavorable for development, and you can clearly see that there is this flattening of Chantal as it progresses directly towards it. It's like running into a brick wall, and that is unfavorable for development. But within this area here, we do have a circulation center, and winds are gusting upwards of 70 miles an hour, so it is a moderately strong tropical storm. You can see the AVN, the color infrared, not that well organized as it moved through the islands, but still some squally weather approaching the Dominican Republic and Hispaniola right there. If you're in Haiti, I would be watching for heavy rainfall. Again, it's not the intensity as far as how fast it's moving. Luckily, Chantal is racing, so it's not going to sit there and just bury itself into the landmass. Here's the ensemble members of the models and the GFS. You can see the GFS model, if it took that track directly over the Dominican Republic, then through the Turks, Caicos, the southeastern Bahamas, over Andros Island, and then directly into the southeast coast of Florida. In fact, I think that line would probably take it right near Fort Lauderdale, maybe a little to the north of there. However, we're not dealing with a strong hurricane or anything like that, so you would have effects probably further away from the center, not necessarily right around the circulation. But a lot of the other members here all indicating that it's going to end up taking some sort of westward turn. Sometimes we see these models just show a slow progression northwest as steering flow collapses. Other times we see them bend it west as they predict more ridging to build in. And if that takes place, we could eventually deal with Chantal in the Gulf of Mexico, and I would be concerned at that point to see what are conditions like. Is the wind shear favorable? The waters are certainly warm enough to support development, so we'd have to watch it then. But you can clearly see there is a little bit more of a southern bias here with regards to the Hurricane Center track of the models, further south than that, and then up, and then more of a westward bend towards the end. So we're going to wait and see exactly where it goes, but as of right now we do know Hispaniola appears to be in the crosshairs. Now I did want to mention the H-Wharf model takes Chantal right into the North Florida-Georgia border, and that's in about 126 hours. And look at this in the central Atlantic, a strengthening tropical storm. That would be Dorian, and it shows that moving off Africa, progressing towards the say west-northwest, and that would be probably a greater threat than Chantal, because if you look at that map, we'd be dealing with an intensifying cyclone headed towards the islands, much different than Chantal, with a strengthening ridge to the north of it, steering it in that direction towards the west. So we'd be keeping an eye on that as well, but right now there is no wave off Africa, just a lot of moisture and thunderstorm activity. Here's the wind shear map, and you can see these winds, 40 knots of wind shear headed directly into Chantal here, and we do have favorable wind shear with the upper level feature over the Bahamas. How favorable it is when Chantal gets there might not be as important of what's left of Chantal after Hispaniola. I will tell you, if it was a Category 5 hurricane coming in, it would be a lot more damaging striking a landmass to its inner core than a system that doesn't have a well-defined inner core. It won't have to deal with restructuring as much as not being organized in the first place. So we'll wait and see what the conditions are like in the Bahamas, but certainly as of right now, Chantal's getting sheared. Note the low wind shear here in the central Atlantic for any potential development in the next couple of days that we'd have to contend with. As of right now, we do have some thunderstorm activity off the coast of Africa. No signs of that massive wave yet on this screen image, but if that does develop, it seems to have pretty good model support, at least at this point in time, so we'd keep a close eye on that one just in case. Now, other than Chantal, we do have Sulik, the typhoon. Remember yesterday it was a 65-mile-an-hour tropical storm at this time. Now it's a 110-mile-per-hour typhoon, Category 2, gusting to 135, moving west-northwest at 13, forecast to become a Category 4, possibly a super typhoon if it can strengthen enough, and then head right towards a lot of these islands here south of Japan, between Taiwan and China, and then slam into China, weaken but still be a typhoon as it comes on in. And when we look at that satellite imagery of it, look at that eye. That almost looks like Katrina did when it popped its eye out over the Gulf of Mexico that fateful August morning. Very well defined typhoon there in the western Pacific. Well, that's going to do it right now for the tropics. I'm Mike Naso. I will see you next time. Stay tuned for the latest on Tropical Storm Chantal.